Hi, welcome to this class. Now, in this class, we will basically be looking at the coalesce function. Now, the coalesce function is a function that basically allows you to manage, null values in a very specific way. What it actually does, it gives you an option to replace, to select a certain field, but in an event that this field has some kind of null case, then you will replace it with another field or a specific use case. Now, let's just kind of dive into the query in itself, and this basically will make more sense now. Now, this is my screen, which basically shows the Bigquery page and is showing like the sales data set. By the ways, if you haven't already registered for a Google Bigquery free account, then you could basically like look at my previous tutorial with the link in the description, where I kind of like covered how to get this, access to this free account. Now, this is the data set with the sales data, which basically consists of different invoices and that happen on different dates and different stores and different store locations, and it's also saying like the amount of bottles sold and all these kind of other interesting metrics. Now, when we look at something, we notice that there are certain store locations that is null. Right. Now, this certain store location is maybe something is wrong with the data. Maybe this data was not involved. However, if we were to maybe, maybe we were working in like a tax, agency, and we needed to get the store locations for different invoices, for instance, and we basically are, trying to get the store locations, particularly because we think it makes it easier to use the Google map to find this location. However, we discovered that some of the locations are null, but for these cases, we would like to replace them with a store name. So maybe we can perform the search ourselves. So what we do in this case is use this Coalesce statement, and I will show you how to use it. So first, here we have the invoice number, right? We select the invoice number, and then we select, the point location, right? So it's like the store location. So the store location, where the store location is basically null. Now, what this does is it gives me back certain records where the store location is null, and it's basically just focused on this invoice and item numbers of these locations. This is very, very specific for this particular use case because I would like to demonstrate how the coalesce function actually works. So here we have the store location, and we have some cases where the store location is null. And, ideally what we want to do in this type of cases is replace the store locations with the store name. So what we will just do here is we put a coalesce. So we put a coalesce, right? And then we just basically put a comma. So here we select the first field, right? So this is the preferred field, and that's why we select it first after the coalesce, after the coalesce, statement, then the first field we select is the store location. And then afterwards, we will put the store name. So what this basically does is it first looks for the store location, and if the store location does not have any value, then it is selecting the store name. This is exactly what it does. So, but particularly these cases are cases where the store location is null. So here we have, we're selecting the invoice number and this Coalesce. So maybe we can name this, function as store location or store name. So when we run this situation, for instance, now what we will get is a situation where we basically notice that, like different cases, it only has store name because like the store location is clearly not available. And this basically satisfies our condition. Like for instance, this first situation here is, I think is basically, it's not covered here, but basically like this is just the idea of, and also we could maybe use this example here to basically track what we are doing, right? So we have a situation here where the invoice number is basically this, right? So we just copy it and then we say the invoice number is equal to this, right? So basically we put an and as usual, and then we have all our query here. Maybe we can, to make it more visible. So here, we could just put this on a different line just to make it more readable, right? And so here we have a situation where, basically where we are trying to look for this particular record and see how this particular record, is being run with this, particular query. So when we run this, specific record, we will see that this invoice number is basically bringing the invoice number. And when we go to the part where we have this point location, we could see that the point location is not available, it's null. And so the query basically points to the store name and replaces it there. So this is the idea of the Coalesce. Also, we could also tell the Coalesce, if we want Coalesce to replace this field that is null by maybe a specific field, we can also state this, right? So we could maybe say, if the store location is not available, just replace it with a string, not available. And what it will do in this case, it will just replace it with a string. Now, how other ways can we use this Coalesce function? Now, Coalesce it could really be, very useful down the line because null values are very, very, they're very, very complex at times, and they could really, really cause some kind of problems in your analysis, and it's very important to manage them properly. So we could take a second example. So for instance, we could see in the data set that we have some cases where maybe, for instance, we have some cases where you see the state bottle cost, for instance, and it's the case that is there. So if we were to run this, invoice number with the state bottle cost, so, and then we basically run the query. So we have a query that says select the invoice of, a certain, select the invoice number and the state bottle cost and run it from this table. So when we run this query like this, what we notice is we have just two fields that comes back as a result. However, another thing that could be noticed also is that there are certain cases, here it doesn't come out immediately, but there are certain cases where the state bottle cost is maybe null. So it's basically null. It is you have some invoice and item number where the state bottle cost is null. And maybe this is some data problems that maybe was not noticed, or maybe it could also be that the state bottle cost for this particular invoices were given for free. Now, assuming maybe the government just comes and says we have to add just maybe $1 for every bottle cost. And then we try to just do that directly now to these cases. So we assume that this state bottle cost is free, but because of the government policy, we are supposed to add $1 charge. And so when we run this, so that to add the $1 charge to the existing state bottle cost for the null cases, what happens is you will notice that the state bottle cost is still remaining null, which is basically strange because it's maybe supposed to go to 1, but it doesn't. So basically this is because null, when you add null or you do any kind of multiplication or any kind of mathematical function with null, it gives you null. So in this case, you could use a Coalesce, for instance, right? And tell the query to give you a 0 for every case where the state bottle cost is equal to null. So maybe we could just write another query just to enhance the query to bring out some difference. So let's just assume we have this query where we are saying that we want to see different invoice item number for and then also the state bottle cost plus 1. Now for cases where the where the state bottle cost is null, then do this kind of function. So here, what we get here is, so just to be a bit more specific, now I have decided to add a new name for the new column that states the new state bottle cost, right? So here, when we run this query, what we will see here is, so what we basically see here is we see that this is the previous state bottle cost, but when we add 1, we get a new state bottle cost, right? So, here the state bottle cost was probably already stated to be 0. So it just did plus 1, right? So you see that everything is plus 1. Now, maybe when you get to the last page, we might just come across the null values. So basically, when we check for only the null cases, we can see that for different invoices and items that didn't have null, that had some null state bottle cost, because we used the Coalesce function, then you have a new state bottle, which is basically 1. But if we didn't use this, then we get a null back. And this is another very important use case of Coalesce, which is extremely important. So we could basically drop your comments in the comment section, and let me know if you understand this particular statement. Thank you.